Steam curled through the air as crystal plates clinked in a room worth millions. Cameras flashed, forks paused midair, and a billionaire's satisfied smile turned to sudden disbelief after a single bite. Whispers rippled through the dining hall. "Who cooked this?" he demanded. But when the crowd pointed toward the woman in the corner, the one in worn shoes, quietly mopping away the night, everything stopped. What could possibly tie a world of wealth to the woman everyone chose not to see?
Tasha had worked in that hotel kitchen for 6 years, her days measured by the rhythm of clattering pans and the hum of conversations she was never a part of. She wasn't on the payroll as a chef, not even an assistant. Her title was custodian, a word that sounded tidy enough to hide everything it really meant. Every night she mopped floors that still smelled faintly of truffle and saffron, wiping away the evidence of other people's brilliance. But Tasha loved to cook. At home, the scraps from each shift turned into small miracles, spiced stews that reminded her of her grandmother's stories, recipes written on napkins tucked into her apron. The kitchen staff barely noticed her, and the guests never did. Until that night. The hotel was hosting the kind of dinner that made headlines, an evening for the ultra-rich, the kind where one misplaced garnish could ruin a career. Tasha should have been invisible, just part of the background like the silver trays and candlelight. But something unexpected simmered beneath the music of clinking glasses. A chance, risky and fragile, waiting in the heat and noise. She didn't know it yet, but the line between the help and the chef was about to blur in the most extraordinary way.
In the rush of that evening, Tasha moved through the grand ballroom like a shadow, unseen, unheard. Crystal chandeliers swayed with the vibration of laughter from people whose names bought them entire cities. Behind swinging doors, chaos ruled the kitchen. A shipment delay left the head chef pacing and cursing under his breath. Timing was slipping, the billionaire guest already seated, and panic spread faster than the steam from the boiling pots. When the final dish, the one meant to crown the night, burned right before plating, the room fell silent. A ruined sauce, minutes before service. No backup, no plan, just dread. Tasha, frozen with her mop near the pantry, watched the frenzy unfold. She knew that smell. She'd practiced that very dish countless times at home, using what little she could afford. Her heart thudded as instinct overruled fear. She stepped closer, voice barely a whisper over the noise, suggesting an alternative. But before she could finish, a sous chef turned sharply, eyes narrowing at her. "Go back to cleaning," his glare said louder than words ever could. Yet the panic didn't stop. The head chef barked orders, but nothing worked. Finally, when the kitchen reached the edge of collapse, Tasha found herself standing over the stove, her hands moving faster than her mind could question them. She recreated the sauce from memory, blending spices that lived in her bloodline, not any cookbook. The aroma shifted, richer, deeper, impossible to ignore. No one noticed her at first. Then silence rippled out from the tasting spoon in the chef's hand. He hesitated, frowned, then, without asking, used her version. Dishes went out. The night rolled on. In the dining hall, crystal forks lifted, conversations paused. One by one, those who had never thought twice about who cooked for them tasted something they couldn't quite explain. The billionaire's brow furrowed, then softened. He demanded to see the chef responsible. Back in the kitchen, the head chef stood, basking in compliments he hadn't earned, pretending not to hear Tasha's quiet footsteps behind him. But when the servers arrived, their words slipped like a blade through the performance. "They're asking for the one who made the sauce." Every head turned. For the first time that night, eyes landed on Tasha, and not a single one looked friendly. The chef's smile cracked. The air grew heavy, thick with disbelief, pride, and quiet resentment. She wasn't supposed to be the answer. She wasn't supposed to be seen at all. And yet, here she was, standing in a room where no one wanted her to exist, about to face the truth of what brilliance looks like when it comes from the wrong color skin.
The dining room door opened, and for a breathless second, the hum of conversation dissolved into silence. Tasha stepped forward, guided not by invitation, but by the ripple of confusion she left behind. The billionaire still sat at the head of the table, his expression unreadable. Cameras hovered, those same lenses that never once turned toward the people serving. When he asked who had made the dish, no one spoke. The head chef shifted first, half a step toward recognition, but before he could take credit again, one of the servers pointed, hesitant but certain, her. Every gaze followed, the woman with the mop, the one who wasn't supposed to touch the food, let alone define the flavor of the night. The air bent with disbelief. The billionaire's smile faltered, then reformed into curiosity. "Bring her forward," he said quietly. But instead of celebration, the kitchen erupted in whispers, protests dressed as confusion. "She doesn't even work here. It was an accident. Anyone could have done it." Even as Tasha stood before the man whose approval could change her life, the noise around her reduced her to something smaller than her own creation. He tasted again, commenting on the richness, the boldness, words meant to honor, yet his attention still drifted to the chef beside her, as if searching for reassurance that it was somehow his doing. Tasha watched her moment shrink, rewritten in real time by people who couldn't bear the sight of her holding credit. Then came the question that silenced even the whispers. "If this is your recipe," the billionaire asked, turning to Tasha at last, "why have I never heard your name?" Her throat grew dry. Every answer she wanted to give, about doors never opened, about talent ignored, pressed against her tongue. The silence stretched until it felt like the whole room was waiting to see if she had permission to exist. And when she finally looked up, no longer apologizing with her eyes, the truth of that question filled the room, heavier than any applause could have.
The tension never truly left that room. The billionaire's compliment hung in the air, polished and perfunctory, while the cameras moved on to safer stories. Tasha didn't get the promotion she'd earned, nor a headline proclaiming her brilliance. By morning, the kitchen carried on as if nothing extraordinary had happened. Just another night, another dinner, another forgotten name. But something had shifted. The staff couldn't unsee what they'd witnessed. Excellence from someone they'd only ever looked past. The billionaire, too, carried an unease he couldn't define. The taste of a truth money couldn't refine. And Tasha, though still scrubbing the same tiles, now worked with a quiet defiance. She'd fed them more than food that night. She'd made them swallow their own reflection. Days later, a single photo leaked. Her in the background, apron damp, eyes steady. It spread online faster than outrage ever does compassion. People debated her story, argued about merit and opportunity, as if racism were a recipe one could fix with the right ingredients. But those who knew, those who had lived versions of her silence, recognized it instantly. The cost of being brilliant in a world that insists you're invisible. Tasha never sought revenge, only recognition. And though her name may fade from headlines, her question refuses to fade with it, echoing beyond the gleam of that dining hall. How many dreams must be mopped off the floor before we stop pretending we don't see who cleans our reflection?